Welcome back, friends, to Divine Feminine Radio. This is the podcast for the awakening woman who knows the patriarchal systems are crumbling and feels called to lead the new paradigm. If you're done with patriarchal limitations and ready to step into your divine power, not just for yourself, but for the collective, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Rani Kala, here today with the beautiful Tamara Rose. She has been deconstructing the patriarchy and activating her divine feminine for the last 15 years. She's the founder of the Beyond Human Method, as well as my lovely sister. Today, we are diving into how divine feminine embodiment and alignment yields more results than toxic masculine hustle. This is something that Tamara has been gathering evidence for the last 10, 15 years, maybe all your life. But we would love to hear from you, your experience, your expertise, Tamara, when it comes to unpacking this. How does that sound to you?
I'm here for it.
Amazing. We love hearing from you. So, as far as evidence that we've been seeing about this, especially recently, Tamara, you had a funny story with your Mercedes. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, we haven't shared this with the listeners yet. This is crazy.
Not yet.
Okay. Let's see. So to talk about this, I think we need to understand a few things about where I've been centering myself for the last handfuls of years as I've been deconstructing and shifting my own energies. So the divine feminine has a couple of attributes and traits. One is a receiving mode. And also this divine connection to all things and knowing that things are working out in your favor and everything is connected and it's all part of the journey and there's like nothing wrong. That's how I would anchor in the divine feminine. And so you can, inside of that context, you have the ability to zoom out and zoom in and kind of dance around the whole shebang of life in that. And so interestingly enough, it was right after Thanksgiving, my car really started taking a turd of a dump. And I actually own a Mercedes. I've been a Mercedes girl for many, many years. I find I love the aesthetics. It's very quiet. The luxury is a match for me. So I've been known to be a Mercedes girl for like in all my friends groups and all my conversations. And so it was weird that it was only has like 54,000 miles on it. And it was 5 or 6 months past warranty. And then all of a sudden the engine was taking this big dump. And I was like, what in the holy turd balls? So I had my local company in Denver take a look at my car. And they diagnosed it and said, oh, it's cylinder heads and it's going to cost you $12,000. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't get really upset. I was just like, that does not seem luxuriously matched for a Mercedes. That does not seem like, something that would happen only after like 4,000 miles after the warranty's up or, 5 months after the warranty's up. Like that seems very weird. And that's kind of how I expressed it to the team. And so in my energy field, I know, like I said, I know a couple of things. One is it's all working out in my favor. So that's step one. And step two, I'm really open to receiving. And I'm always looking at how do I support the universe in having me receive more as well. Now, also in my energy field, I was interested in kind of like getting a new car. I don't know. I'd like had it kind of in the background of my thoughts for a year or so. I was like, I wonder if I'm going to get a new car. Like, I wonder if I want to explore new cars. Like, maybe I'll look at other cars. And so that's like going on in the background. So all those come to fruition in this situation. And so they do the diagnosis. They say you have to replace the cylinder heads and it's going to be $12,000. And I was like, but is it? Because that seems insane. And so immediately I was like, okay, well, let me take the diagnosis, send it to some other like shops that specialize in Mercedes, and we'll see what they say. One came back at 12 and one came back at like 7. And I was like, okay, so I have some options there. And then I was like, okay, if this comes to fruition, maybe I just buy a new car. I wanted something new, so I'm going to go test drive. So I open up those options, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some other options? And I make a list and I'm like, what do I really care about? And so everything's always being aligned with my values, right? So aesthetics, quietness, luxury, all these things are showing up in my field. And I'm really starting to explore them in a new way and I'm getting more information. And so I leave that quote be. And then I think 2 days later, the gentleman at the service center calls me. He's like, actually, we worked with a few different things and we've lowered it to $10,000. I'm like, okay, but that's still ridiculous. Like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, have you
And
talked to this? Have you talked to this? Like, have you like, who are you talking to? He's like, okay, let me go back and see what else I can do. Go ahead.
this whole time you have a not a rental, but
Mhm.
a rental from
Loaner.
Mercedes, a loaner. That's what the
I
word
have a
is.
loaner Mercedes.
So you're not in any rush or hurry or worry about getting this completed or done.
No, I mean, I could have been, right? Like,
Mhm.
I think some people could be in that space of like, oh, I have to like fix this right now and I can't believe this and the but like I just look at what's happening in reality and what's happening in reality is I have a loaner car. It's like we're getting around the holidays, like into Christmas and New Year's and whatever and I'm like, you know, nobody's calling me like you have to make a decision either. They're just
Mhm.
kind of giving me information. I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Mhm.
You should maybe go back and talk again because 10,000 is kind of like. So then I give them 4 days and they come back to $7,000. And I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
still really ridiculous. And one of the mechanics had actually said that the engine in the GLC 300 and that engine is in other Mercedes vehicles is having this issue in general. And I was like, oh, well, then if you're having this issue in general, Mercedes really needs to take care of it. Like that's the value system is like way off, right? And so I
Yeah.
also am coming from like this is a luxury car, like my dealership even I live 75 miles from the dealership and they'll drive me a loaner car, take my car back down. Like they always schlep a car somewhere for me, like free of charge. So I'm just like, this seems sus. So like I know I get on like a Reddit thread, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
they said something like a goodwill, Mercedes has like a goodwill program or a goodwill ambassador or something, like a goodwill line. And you can call them and request things literally of this nature was what it was
Mhm.
suggesting. And some people on that thread were like, they did nothing for me. That was bullshit, whatever. And I'm like, well, I might as well try this. Do you know what I mean? So I call the hotline, I submit the case, and it's like, somebody's going to get back to you in 72 hours. And I was like, okay, cool. And I give them like 3 or 4 days and I haven't heard. So I like call and I get a
Mhm.
rep and I'm like, look, somebody's supposed to get back to me. She's like, oh, yeah, looks like Scotty's on your case. I'm like, is he? Because I haven't heard from him. And she's like, yeah, it says that he's like working along. So he'll touch base. I'll put a note in the system. I'm like, cool.
Mhm.
She's like, he should get back to you within a day or so. I give it 2 or 3 days. I call Scotty again. Literally same thing. Rep, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, whatever. I'm like, okay. Then I call Scotty again. And I haven't heard anything from the dealership. The last thing they said was, it's going to be $7,000. But nobody has said, are you going to do this? Are you going to get this
Mhm.
fixed? Are you like, what? Nobody said it, right? So
Mhm.
I'm still like, well, I have a loaner. It's all going to work out. We're getting to the point, listeners. Just stay with me. Okay. So I'm like, okay. So I
We have
call.
to give you the context first.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, still nothing from Scotty. I don't know this guy. I've never talked to this guy. And I leave like a final message or whatever. And then a few days later, I get a call from the service department. Mind you, this has been going on now for like a full month, I think. I get a
Uh-huh.
call from the service department. And they go, Mercedes Benz Warranty and Corporate, so this is like worldwide, has issued a warranty extension specifically on this issue with your car. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And he goes, everything will be covered. And I was like, oh, fantastic. He was like, so would you like me to do that repair now? And I was like, sure, I think you should get on that now. Like that was
Uh-huh.
the first time that he really like pushed for it, right? And I was like, so this wasn't the Goodwill hotline. This wasn't anything else he was doing. It was like all of a sudden corporate just changed their mind. Right
Yeah.
at the time I needed them to change their mind. And I was like, oh, fascinating. Okay. There was one
Yeah.
other like smaller fix, I think, that the car needed. He's like, well, do you want us to do that too? I'm like, nah, I'll take that to my local guy. Like my local
Uh-huh.
guy will handle that, right? And so I tell a couple of my friends, they're like, how's the car? I'm like, oh, they took care of it. And they're like, of course, because it's what, Tamara? And I was like, I mean, you too could have this energy,
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been talking about, I think, for the last week or so with our clients and stuff, is like that's the embodiment of the divine feminine. There's an
Yes.
openness to receiving. I'm in collaboration. So I'm just kind of like going down all these different avenues of like what could be. I'm open to it getting solved in any way possible. I'm not like, it has to get done right now. Who the fuck? Da, da, da. Like, I'm not in that energy. And then
Mm-hmm.
it all kind of works out
Yeah.
perfectly.
And it's so interesting because no actions that you took as far as the Goodwill thing through the dealership, through other quotes, none of those really yielded the quote unquote results. It
Mm-mm.
came from something else like outside your purview that you didn't even know was possible at the time,
Right.
potentially. And I think that's the point that we're making here as part of like the evidence of the divine feminine embodiment is it's not about that push and go and all the action taking to do. There
Mhm.
are actions to take inside of the options that are available or the pathways that might be there, but it's or taking your car into the dealership is like an aligned action,
Yeah.
but it's not this push and go that you're pointing to.
I think the other part that was really interesting is we've been playing with this notion of like as slow as possible.
Yes.
And so, like, in the as slow as possible theory, right? If you can, instead of like trying to get something to move right now, which seems like, again, more egoic than not, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I look at the evidence and what's surrounding, I'm like, there's actually no urgency for the right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the dealership wasn't like, are we doing the work right now? Like, they actually never asked that. They just kept telling me, like, this is the problem and this is money. I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't like, shall we get started on this right now? So I was like, huh. And I had a car, I had a Mercedes loaner. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was like no urgency. So like ego could have for somebody else tried to push it forward and you would have maybe said yes to $7,000
Mm-hmm.
or $10,000
Mm-hmm.
or been like, I'll take it to another guy down the street for 7,000. So
Mm-hmm.
like that could have been the options if there was this urgent, like have to do it now. But when you slow down the energy and you're open to receiving, you're like, oh, it could show up a different way. And I think, sometimes us humans just like we like to do stuff. So of course I'm like researching or I'm like, what about another car? I'm like test driving cars on New Year's Eve. Like all these things are happening for
Mm-hmm.
me, like doing, but nothing's coming to fruition from my quote unquote doing.
Mm-hmm.
Other
And
than, I might go be a BMW girl now.
and what's fascinating about you and the energy is the way that you get so obsessed with the nuances. So for you,
Mhm.
when you're in this, it's all going to work out, everything's going to be good. There's no doubt or fear in the background.
Mhm.
And it seems like now you've been, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like now you've been doing this for so long, you're in this place where there isn't any more doubt or fear in the background to address or
Mhm.
clear. But maybe like for listeners in their beginning stages of this embodiment and beginning stages of implementing something like this, there may be some level of, I don't know if it's going to work out, I feel like I have to do something. Like, what would you say maybe when you first started doing this work or first started stepping into this energy? Like, what were some of those things that showed up for you? Can you remember?
Um, I think I think where people could look and find themselves is like, do you feel anxious? Right? So like a feeling that might come to the surface is like anxiousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me doing the work with upwards of 15 years of meditation now, right?
Mm.
Is being able to discern on a very clear level. Like if you're anxious, can you discern what you're anxious about?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think most people have an angst show up right away. Oh, I don't have a car. I need a car. How am I going to get around? Da, 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 da. Like, I got to get this fixed, Mercedes, da, 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 like all those thoughts, and being able to discern what's showing up
Mm-hmm.
is one of the biggest muscles that anybody could build in their growth and development journey, because that's going to point to what energy field you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for most people that angst shows up instead of like what is actually presenting itself to me. And the more you can be in like, well, what's being presented is XYZ, right? So it was like even me having an awareness like, oh, I'd put on my list for the year, like new car.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. damn, that's funny, right?
Yeah.
And then I didn't get that new car, and now this is showing up. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, even that one was one of my creations.
Yeah. And that something similar showed up for one of our clients, the one that created $168,000 in one day. And she's a really great example of the embodiment and the alignment as well,
Yeah.
where she was stepping in, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong because this was
Yeah.
your private client, but she was stepping into new future self-alignment for her real estate business and being able to be a multi-million-dollar real estate agent. And so she started with the high-rise luxury apartment. She started with the stylist. She was upgrading all these things in her life to embody what that future self person would be doing, experiencing, feeling, etc. And then when it came to her car, she was like, oh, pitter-pattering about it. Like, I know I'm supposed to upgrade it, but maybe later, and it's money or whatever was going on in her head. And then the car broke down on the side of the road.
Yeah,
because it was time.
Literally couldn't run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always find that when people are going through upgrades, I feel like the car is kind of this first line of defense, right? It's the thing you get in every day, similar to like in your house, you live in there too, right? But like you get into it, there's an aesthetic on the inside, you have values connected to your car. There's so many things. Like I think we even did one event or one program one year, everybody was upgrading their cars.
Oh yeah.
This was wild. Yeah. But you go like, you can find so much in somebody's car. Like for me, the inside of my car is always spotless. Like you won't find a speck of dust in my car. The outside could be dirty. That's very much me. Like the place I live is in the car, not out the car. So if it's dirty from snow, I don't care, right? And then you have some people who clean the outside of the car, but never the inside of your car. And you're like, oh, that's fascinating. You like to look good for other people, but not the inside. Okay. That's a good metaphor, right?
Yeah, I didn't put that together.
Or they're like, it doesn't really matter what you drive. It just gets you from A to B. You're like, another value system, right? Like, oh, so you just want it to function, but you don't feel valuable enough to have all the bells and whistles. Yeah. Now somebody's going to comment on this podcast and be like, that's me, but that's not what I think. And you're like, okay. Or my ex-husband's car drives me insane. That thing is dirty inside out. It has, like, when I say dirty, I mean, it needs 2 full details to get back to something. He's got broken shit on it, like on the outside, sometimes broken shit's on the inside, like forgets that there's food in there. And I'm like,
oh gosh.
No. I don't even want to go near the car,
No,
when you're
I
like,
can't stand
where's the kid's stuff? Oh, it might be in the car. I'm like, you're using it as like a second storage system. Like the house is so overflowing that you now have like a second storage system called a car. Like it's crazy, right? So everybody's value system is connected to a car, right? So when I'm looking for, this was like my number, just so people can have a glimpse into my reality. You're like, what was I looking for when I was looking at the new car? The ones that were the quietest. And people are like engine, we'll just go get an electric car. I'm like, no. Like insulation. What's the decibel level on the inside of the car? And people are like, You think about that? That's all
Mm-hmm.
I care about. And before my GLC 300, right? Like I was actually like heated steering wheel because it
Oh,
was
yeah.
such a nuance. Now it's become like more standard, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, heated seats are standard. Heated steering wheels become standard. So I'm like, what's the decibel level?
Well, the other thing I wanted to point out inside of your example with
Mm-hmm.
Mercedes is when
Mm-hmm.
you're choosing a company that aligns with your values,
Mm-hmm.
they're also going to reciprocate and take care of you in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So, one example I can think of is like when I was flying Frontier and I missed my check in time by like 2 minutes. Like, you're supposed to check in 60 minutes prior to the flight. I was running
Mm-hmm.
late. I checked in 58 minutes prior to the flight. And they're like, nope, you can't do it. We're rebooking you. And it was like another flight 5 hours after that.
Oh
Right.
my God.
And yeah, this was on my way to Colorado. And so
Insane.
when you choose a company where it's like I'm choosing it based on money,
Price.
based on the price, what's cheapest,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily what's in alignment with my values, then
Mm-hmm.
it may turn out that way versus if I were to go with a United
Mm-hmm.
or
Delta.
fly Delta, fly Emirates. I
Mm-hmm.
don't,
Yeah.
that's fancy stuff, but
Yeah.
they may be more apt to take care of you because you're matching and aligning with the value system that is aligned with you.
Yeah. And so I think everything really starts with values, right? And so for
Mhm.
me, the conversations I had with Mercedes was like, this seems really weird. Like this doesn't like a car that is of high caliber at 4,005 months past the warranty,
Mhm.
we're going to have a major engine malfunction.
Mhm.
That's insane. And
Mhm.
they were like, you're right. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about some other examples of this theory that we're exploring,
Mhm.
where embodying the divine feminine energy
Mhm.
actually provides more results rather than the action and the
Yeah.
going and the doing. So, going back to the real estate client that we had worked
Uh-huh.
with, like her entire practice of alignment and embodiment was what had her get to the $168,000 a day, right? So, it wasn't
Mhm.
this action
And that was
taking.
like one closing, just so people know. It wasn't a hustle of like 12 closings, you know?
Yeah. So she started at, what was it, 700,000 closings with
Mhm.
houses.
Yep.
And it wasn't a
No, that
in
was her largest closing when she had met me. So, like,
mhm.
she was closing, she was climbing a ladder. Her thought process was my largest closing was 700,000. Maybe I'll do an 800,000, then maybe 950, 100,000 or a million, right? Like it was
And
incremental because that's how most people think.
exactly, like if you're a business owner and entrepreneur, that's probably what we've been taught is to
Mhm.
hit these incremental goals or shifts or changes rather than the leapfrogging that could be possible.
Mhm.
So when working with this client,
Mhm.
Tamara started with the embodiment practice of the person that she's becoming. If she could
Mhm.
jump from the 700,000 to five, was it $5 million that she closed?
Well, that's what she did. That wasn't our conversation, but that is what she did. So her largest closing was 700,000, and then within I think 8 months she closed a $5 million deal.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't about the incremental shifts or the action taking, but it
Mhm.
was like, who is the person
Yeah.
that I need to become to be able to
Mhm.
close this deal, to be able to work with these types of
Right.
clients?
And so we really framed it as a multi-million dollar agent, right? There's a little bit more fluidity to that versus like
Hmm.
you're closing $5 million deals. Who do you have to be? You know, so it was like if you're a multi-million dollar agent, what does that look like? And what does the embodiment look like? And so it's multifaceted. So it's some of it is in the personal life, right? So you're like, okay,
Hmm.
personally, how do you dress? What do you drive? What kind of condo or apartment are you living in? What part of town are you living in? Like what and she was a condo kind of gal, so high rise with concierge at the front desk and a rooftop pool and right. That was like the epitome of the future self in a as a multi-million dollar agent, right?
Mhm.
Then you go, okay, let's take actions consistent with that alignment. And that, the $10,000 stylist came into play. That's what she
Mhm.
paid, not how much she spent on clothes. Double that. That's what she spent on clothes, and so you go, wait, what? And so it was an upgrade of style. When her
Mhm.
car broke down, we talked about, well, if you were a multi-million dollar agent, as we're aligning you into, how do you go and buy a car? She's like, I don't haggle. I get a big ass
Mhm.
bow on that car. I go in, I choose the car, and I buy it and I come out. That's how it goes. So that was the experience we were setting up for her. She was like very much like, we were talking about Black Friday sales or something around Thanksgiving. She's like, I don't do coupons. I don't do Black Friday sales. I don't need to. I have more than enough money coming in all the time. So she was constantly
Mhm.
aligning. And then it was like inside of the business. So there's the personal aspect, and then some people miss the business. So you have to go like, who are you being in your business as that multi-million dollar agent? Well, who
Mhm.
you're being in the business is like, you must really love real estate if you're closing multi-million dollar deals. And what is it that you love about those deals? Or those, like, what is it that you love about it? And she's like, really, I love the fine furnishings and the fine, like, aesthetics of the home.
Mhm.
So we would go tour multi-million dollar homes and we would like gush over the crown molding. Like, that was like part of the practice of being in that
Yeah.
energy field, And so it was interesting and then you have to deal with all of your perceptions, like everything that gets in the way of just receiving, right?
Yeah.
The divine feminine is receiving. So part of her practice of how she received leads and how she set herself up to receive leads was through Zillow. She was like, look, I get amazing leads through Zillow. She knew exactly like I was like, well, which zip codes? Right. And she's like, well, I use these three, but I really only get them through this one zip code. I was like, okay, well, you could use just the one zip code then if you want. She's like, that's a good idea. And then she shifted brokerages. I think she'd shifted 3 times in the
Mm.
process of me being with her. So she was with one brokerage that wasn't quite a fit. She moved to another one, kind of, um, kind of a better fit. And then I think was at Liv Sotheby's. And Liv Sotheby's
Mm.
is known for being a prestigious high-end multi-million dollar brokerage. Now, the fascinating thing was she had just switched to Liv Sotheby's. And every new broker in a new brokerage has to do like front desk work. And we were on a call and she's like, God, I fucking hate front desk work. She's like, nobody just walks in off the street and buys a house. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, do they? Right. And so you're like,
Mhm.
wow, that right there. So for our listeners, that right there is a belief system that's blocking your receiving.
Mhm.
Right. So I was like, why don't, like, that sounds like the thing to clear.
Gosh, I love how you question literally everything. You have such a nuance and a gift to question every single judgment
Everything.
or point of view or
Mhm.
statement that exists. And that's such a like expertise that you provide. I love it.
I'm glad that you love it. I think some people might think it's annoying. Like my daughter. My daughter's like, Mom,
Mm.
shut up. At 10.
That's what
Um,
makes you a good coach. I'll
yes,
say that.
yes, yes, yes. So we nipped that right in the butt and she like cleared that energy. She's like, okay, well, it is possible. So it was like first day doing front desk work, and this couple walks in and she's in Denver and they're looking at a property. They want to do something in Breckenridge, and she's like, okay, that's like not her territory, but she's happy to do it. They're like, their price point was like 2 million,
Mhm.
but they didn't find what they wanted in 2 million, so they upped up to 5. And but like when they were looking at 2 million, she'd never done 2 million. So then the brokerage was like, look, you need to have an agent who is skilled at this to be a partner with you on the deal. And she's like, okay. she wasn't opposed. She was just like, yeah, okay. So she
Mhm.
started off with a partner to help them buy a house in the 2 million range. Over the process, again, clearing the energy, receiving, stepping into that divine feminine over and over, she went from that to the $5 million deal, still splitting it with somebody. And then at some point, the client was like, why do we have two of you? Like, this
Mhm.
seems ridiculous. And she was like, yeah, I guess they're like, her first thought, I guess they're gonna go with the other agent. I
Mhm.
was like, says fucking who? Like, they have a relationship with you. They don't think anything different from 2 million to 5 million. They don't think that you're not providing them with a service. I was like,
Yeah.
I think you should ask them. And she's like, oh, okay. Right. So think of all the places. Like, if she wasn't working with me, we weren't questioning literally everything. Like, the deal wouldn't have walked in off the street.
Mhm.
She wouldn't have questioned like her being like maybe in first position to like have it, and then like the actual close. And so she just asked them and they're like, no, we'd like you to stay on the deal. She was like, okay. So that it was all those steps along the way. And then I remember like something so it's silly, but it's not. So, when you close a multi-million-dollar deal, a lot of times
Mhm.
agents give gifts to the buyers or the sellers when they close the deal. She's
Mhm.
like, what do I do for this person? I was like, well, what would you usually do? Or like, what's a match? And like, so we got to move with the energy of that as well. Right. So
Mhm.
that was the thing of like continually lying in the energy field and receiving what then shows up. I think is kind of the whole premise. I
I'm
love that.
curious. I'm curious, do you remember what the gift was?
No.
Ah,
God, dang it. I
dang
know.
it.
Dang
I'm
it.
just nosy.
I know.
Anyway, well, I love that story. I think it's such a great example of the embodiment practice and how the action taking that we've just been so ingrained in doesn't necessarily work, especially for us as women. It's just part of that same patriarchal framework and hustle and going and doing that we've been taught over and over again.
And it's like, it's not just it doesn't work so well for us. I think it's like we're so much magical than that. We're so much more
Mhm.
magical. So if you believe that that's the way, it only can show up in that way. But the second you're like, oh, I'm actually far more magical than this going, doing, going, doing, going, doing, and you
Mhm.
start to honor it, now not only is it like easier, you produce results quicker, you kind of, like she leapfrogged. It
Mhm.
was a quicker result than like, let's strategically come up with this way. And now let's make 80 phone calls a week. And then let's reach out. And, it's like,
Mhm.
that's what
And
we've
I
been
think
told works.
And I think that's something you're really gifted at is for people that have done so much strategy work
Mhm.
and like the all the actions to take but
Yeah.
haven't gotten the result, you are really skilled at working with those people to
Mhm.
find what actually works inside of the embodiment, inside of looking at the energy of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just like, it's so magical to work with women in that way. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we would just tweak this, and this. I mean, also so magical to work with people in sales and in real estate
Mhm.
because people typically already have something set up in that way. They already are like, they already kind of know what they like, what they don't, what's like what they're bumping up against. You know what I mean? Like that's like
Mhm.
quicker, a quicker leap session, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. So if I am listening for three takeaways of all these examples and what we've discussed today, what we've opened up, I would
Mhm.
say it starts with embodying the it's all working out for me
Mhm.
with no doubt, no fear in the background, like going
Mhm.
all in that, oh, that's interesting that that's
Mhm.
happening, but it's still all working out for me.
Yes, 1,000%.
Okay, cool. Second thing I would say is becoming the energy and the embodiment of the outcome before it happens. So similar with this client, the way that she upgraded all the
Mhm.
pieces of her life, the car and the condo and the stylist and the dress and the thoughts, feelings, and actions of that person before actually closing the $5 million deal.
with
I know some. Go
with
ahead.
one caveat, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I want to make this very clear that you're also looking at that from a business perspective. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
an entrepreneur or business owner, you also have to look at those nuances in the business. So like who would you be being and doing in the business itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just my personal, but also the business. Sorry, you were
Mm-hmm.
going to say something else.
What I was going to say was sometimes we can think about it backwards. Like, I don't want to spend the money until I get the money. I don't want to upgrade the thing until the close happens. And so that's
Mhm.
all backwards from the evidence that Tamara has collected over the past 10, 15 years, I would say. And the change really happens once you take the actions, once you align the thoughts, feelings, and actions of that person
Mhm.
before, and then that's how the thing actually comes to you and meets you in that timeline and that reality.
Yeah, there are multiple personal growth and development programs that will outline a strategy of be, do, have. So
Mm,
a lot of what we're doing is aligning you in the being, a being of thoughts, feelings, and action in the being of this person and choosing it and like how does it feel and like having no doubt and having no fear because your future self when you make 5 million or let's say in a year,
mm-hmm,
I'm just throwing that out there. Let's say you make 5 million in a year. The choices that you're making and how you're functioning, there's no fear, there's no doubt. You just go out and you eat whatever you want and you don't look at the right side of the menu. And
mm-hmm,
you go buy clothes that match your aesthetic. You're not worried about the bill. If your car breaks down, you just go get a new one, right? So we're embodying that being so that you can have and then do the things that you want, right? And I think
mm-hmm.
that's like, so be do have is kind of like one of those. And like I said, multiple personal growth and development companies will talk about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like
Like a
a
good
foreign,
formula to function from.
yeah, it's not like a foreign concept. So that could be one takeaway too inside of the alignment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And the last thing that I've been hearing is trusting divine timing over the forced outcome. Like the Mercedes story, for
Mhm.
example, it's like, okay, it's all working out. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It's that as slow as possible principle rather
Mhm.
than it has to happen right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I follow the energy. So it's like, oh, nobody's really pushing me.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I push it?
Mm-hmm.
Seems weird, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that made me $12,000.
That's true. $12,000 you didn't have to spend. Girl math.
Girl math, it made me 12K.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you would add as far as takeaways from today and the embodiment versus the toxic masculine hustle that we've been taught in?
I think there is an element of intuition, and maybe we touch on that in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think intuitively, if you start to really use that, the intuition is the guidance for the divine feminine and the divine
Mm-hmm.
masculine. But the guy, if you're following intuition, not your judgments, not your point of views, not your have tos, not the ego, not the get it done now, like none of that's intuition, right? So if you're not following that and you're following intuition, then things flow much more quickly and easily.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah.
So, if this is something that you're interested in, that you're like, I've never thought about it this way, and I want to explore this concept, we would love to explore that with you and what that journey looks like for you. So, I've opened up a few spots on my calendar. I'm happy to open up a discovery call with you and just see what that could look like in applying this methodology for you in your life. I'll put the link to book a call with me in the description. And we have lots of resources and pathways to explore that. So, with that, we will close out the episode today. Thank you so much for being on with us and being open to a new perspective. Tamara, thank you for sharing your expertise and your stories as usual. We will see you all next week. Keep making magic, y'all.